What's up, everyone? Welcome into episode 2 of Around the Octagon. We got UFC 301 this upcoming Saturday. Joining me today, we got Ryan and we got Zach. Boys, I'm not going to lie. This is a little bit of UFC 300 hangover. This card does not even come close to stacking up with what we witnessed a couple weeks ago. But, it's still a pay-per-view. We're still going to talk about it because we love fights. And I'm excited to break this one down. A lot of people only have a couple fights in the UFC on this card. A lot of Brazilians. Obviously, the card is in Brazil, but it should still be a good time because UFC pay-per-views never disappoint. Gentlemen, how you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, Colin. I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, same here. Happy to be here. And UFC pay-per-views definitely can disappoint.
Yeah, Ryan disagrees with me on that. We are missing Luke today. Luke, we miss you, but Luke will be back. We have our recap episode dropping on Monday, so he'll be back for that one, boys. All right, you guys ready to get into this?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Starting it off, Alessandro Costa, minus 155 versus Kevin Borras at plus 130. Costa is 2-2 in the UFC. His last fight was a loss to Steve Erceg, who's fighting in this main event by UD. And Borras is 1-1 in the UFC. Both fights ended by decision. Zach, the floor is yours. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, this one was kind of tough to look at. Borras throws at a higher pace. He averages like 5.4 significant strikes per minute compared to 3.75 for Costa. And while I do anticipate this fight mainly to be on the feet, I think Costa is more battle tested and has fought the tougher competition in the UFC. And for that reason, I have Costa edging him out via decision.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Zach. I like Costa. He did go in a 3-round war with Steve Erceg, who's now fighting for the title. Couldn't edge that one out, but definitely did keep it competitive. Was able to steal a round off him, and he's just looked better in his UFC fights compared to his opponent. So
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me. Borjas has gotten taken down 7 times combined in his 2 fights. So I think Costa's going to try to get him down, have some ground control here, and I think he's going to get the decision. But I'm not going to lie to you, boys. I don't really know much about these 2 fighters. So I'm going to go with the favorite here and the guy that has better takedown defense. All right, moving on. Ismael Bonfirm, big favorite, minus 395 versus Vink Pichel at plus 310. Bonfirm is 2-1 in the UFC. He did lose to Benoit Saint Denis by rear naked choke in the first round. Pichel is 7-3 in the UFC. He has won 3 of his last 4 with wins over Austin Hubbard and Jim Miller. But his last 4 fights have gone to decision. Zach, where'd you land on this one?
Yeah, so while Bonfim is coming off to that sub loss to Benoit Saint-Denis, the Brazilian seems to be set up with a very, very easily winnable matchup here facing the 41-year-old in front of his home crowd. I think the speed and youth of Bonfim will prove to be too much, and I have Bonfim winning by decision, but I can also see this being a TKO KO situation as well.
yeah, it's the Bonfim brothers had a lot of hype coming into the UFC. They still do. Both got their start in the Contender Series. They fought in the same card. It's clear to see the UFC still trying to push Ishmael up even after he lost to Benoit Saint Denis. A lot of people wrote him off after that loss, but I mean, Benoit Saint Denis is an animal, and obviously he's proven that he belongs at least in the rankings of the top 15 rankings of the lightweight division. And yeah, Vince Pichel, he 41 years old, definitely slowed down, pretty long layoffs in between fights. The UFC knows what they're doing with this one. They're just trying to get some traction back on their guy, their young bull, who they think is gonna potentially make some noise in this division later on in his career. So give me Ishmael Bonfim either by decision. I mean, Vince Pichel is tough as nails, or maybe he sneaks in a KO. But I got
That's
this one
exactly
going
what I have.
decision.
Yeah, I'm on the same page here, boys. This seems like an easy pick for me. Pichel does not have good takedown defense, and that's not Bonfim's game. But I ultimately don't think it matters. I think Bonfim is going to outstrike him. I actually think he's going to knock him out in the third round. I'll go third round knockout. He's winning the fight, but he does get the knockout. He does get the finish. All right, Dion Barbosa, minus 205 versus Anesta Karakete at plus 165. Barbosa has won her only fight in the UFC by an armbar, while Ernesta has won her only fight in the UFC by a split decision. Zach, this is a tough one. Who'd you go with?
Yeah, so I mean, Barbosa will look to get this fight to the ground and work her submission game, where Ernesta, nicknamed heavy-handed, will want to exchange on the feet. I mean, if Barbosa can get this fight to the ground, I can see her getting the job done and working something. And we don't really know too much about Ernesta's takedown defense, but she does land a lot of volume, and I actually have her edging this one out. I have Ernesta via decision.
Wow,
If
going
she
with
can
the
hold
underdog.
if she can hold up on the feet. I mean, if she can hold up on the feet, proves her takedown defense, which we don't know a thing about. But if she is able to, she's gonna beat her on the feet. But
I'm actually going the opposite here. I think the grappling is going to be a huge part of this. Like you said, I don't know much about Ernesta's takedown defense, and she did, to her credit, put on an absolute war of a fight against her opponent on the Dana White Contender Series. But given that this is her UFC debut, going into Brazil, fighting in her opponent's home territory, I think psychologically, like that has to do something to you. I mean, it's a tough call to answer when you know you're going in making your debut in enemy territory. And Barbosa, beast. She has a win over Karine Silva, which is aged very well. Karine Silva just won unanimous decision. She's been destroying every opponent she's faced in the UFC thus far. And I really do think that grappling is going to be a big part of this. I got her getting her out of there by the rear naked choke or armbar in rounds 2 or 3.
So you guys are split. So I'm the final judge here. We have a split decision. I actually could not come to a choice here, but I
it's
do
hard.
have a very strong feeling that this fight is going to go with the over. Ernesta has 5 straight fights that have gone the distance, while Barbosa has won 2 of her last 3 via decision. So I like the over 2.5 rounds here. But if I had to pick, man,
Flip a
I'm
coin.
probably, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll go Barbosa just because she's minus 205, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about the over in this one, though.
If she
All
gets
right.
her down, she's gonna win the fight. If she doesn't, she's gonna lose the fight. I think it comes down to that. But yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. All right. Mauricio Ruffy, minus 190 versus Jamie Malarkey at plus 160. Ruffy has won his only fight in the UFC by knockout, while Malarkey is 5-5 in the UFC. Really hasn't fought many big names outside of Jalen Turner, our guy that burned the hell out of us on UFC 300. But Turner did actually finish that knockout against Malarkey. Zach, this should be a fun fight, man. Who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Malarkey is pretty damn chinny. His last 3 losses have come via KO/TKO, and Ruffy's finished all 9 of his wins via KO/TKO. I think he's gonna find a shot. I have him winning via knockout TKO.
Yeah, definitely a strange career for Jamie Malarkey. Definitely, 5-5 in the UFC. Was a big prospect coming out of Australia, but Mauricio Ruffy be able to find the chin. I think he puts him out in 1 round. There's not much to say about this one. Malarkey has proven nothing in his time in the UFC thus far, uh, and I think it's just a failed prospect. So give me Ruffy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ruffy as well. Ruffy is nicknamed One Shot for a reason. 4 straight fights, win by knockout. And I just feel like Malarkey seems like a dude that his UFC tenure is coming to an end. I mean, someone that's 5-5, not really fighting any big names or climbing the ranks. I don't know. I think Ruffy gets a knockout here, and I think it can happen relatively quickly. All right, Joaquim Silva plus 150 versus Drakkar Clos at minus 180. Silva 6-4 in the UFC, beat Clay Guida by UD in his last fight, but did get knocked out by Arman Sakarian in the fight before that. But that is a legit opponent, as we have now learned after Arman beat Charles. Clos is 8-2 in the UFC on a 3-fight win streak, has beaten Bobby Green. One of his 2 losses was a knockout loss to Beneil Dariush, also no slump. Zach, who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Silva's another guy who's proven to be a bit chinny, but his last 3 losses have come by knockout/TKO. And Klaus is a guy that does have power, and I do think Klaus will find his shot again and he'll finish that fight.
Yeah, no, definitely. Jakar Close has definitely made a name for himself in the UFC. I mean, like his losses come to Benil Dariush was his last loss. Now he's on a 3 fight win streak, and he was looking good. He absolutely rocked Benil Dariush in that fight, and then just made that mistake of letting his hands go a little too wild, and then Benil was able to catch him on the chin and able to put him away. But Benil's ranked what, top 5, top 6 in the lightweight division, so given like that resume, it's not too bad of a loss to take, especially when you know you had him hurt and you just weren't able to find that kill shot. And yeah, give me Jakar Close, unanimous decision. I'm thinking maybe 30-27 on a judge's scorecard, but then 229-28.
Yeah, Close has had 5 straight fights in which he outlanded his opponent in significant strikes. So I definitely love the volume out of him. I also think he gets the win here. I was leaning knockout, but I think I agree with you, Ryan. I think this fight's going to go the distance, and I do think Close wins by UD. All right, Gene Silva, -130 versus William Gomes at +110. Silva 2-0 the UFC. Knocked out Weston Wilson in January, so only a 3.5 month layoff for Silva. Gomez is 3-0 in the UFC. Last win was by knockout in September. This was another tough one for me. Curious your boys' thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, both Silva and Gomez have the ability to finish fights. And while Silva will have the motivation of the hometown crowd in Brazil, I expect Gomez to utilize his 4-inch reach advantage and keep Silva at bay and outstrike his way to a decision win.
Yeah, there's a possibility where I see Gomez maybe getting another KO TKO finish, but he does utilize that range very well, and he's able to keep his opponents at distance and just kind of pick them apart on the feet. Um, Gene Silva, once again, fighting in front of his hometown crowd, maybe big advantage there, but I have Gomez winning this by split decision. I think both fighters are going to keep this one close. You know, you're fighting in front of your home crowd. You know, you're going to put on a show for the fans, and we'll see. But I have Gomez sneaking out a split decision.
Wow, you got the split. Yeah, this one was tough. I mean, both guys are strikers. It should be a fun one. But ultimately, I'm going to roll with the Brazilian here with the home crowd and Silva, former Dana White Contender Series stud. So ultimately, the home field advantage got the nod for me. All right, Elvis Brenner +190 versus Muktabek Orabi -230. That was a tough name, boys. You like that? Brenner
Nailed it.
is 3-0 in the UFC. Orabi won his only fight in the UFC against Uros Medic by neck crank. And he also landed 7 takedowns in that fight, which is an impressive number. Orabi is a pretty heavy favorite. You guys going to go with the favorite here, or is the underdog going to bark?
Yeah, I mean, both of these fighters again have the ability to finish fights, but I'm not really in love with the line of Oral by -250. Both guys have a good ground game. I think it should be closer than that, but I do think Oral by wins by decision.
I got Oral by finish. I don't know if he gets it done via TKO ground and pound or sub. I mean, he fought Uros Medic at welterweight, and he was able to take him down 7 times. I think you said, Tong. So
Yeah.
definitely now cutting down that weight, he's able to keep that strength, and he's fighting a lighter opponent. I think that'll play a really big part, and it really only helps his ground game so much more. And being able to submit a welterweight on short notice, give me Oral by sub round 2.
Yeah, well, Luke did tell us, although he's not here today, he likes Oral by sub. So I'm going to ride with Luke on this one. Shout out, Luke. I also like this choice as well. I was going Oral by all the way, but when Luke said by sub, I was like, you know what? He's going to get it done by sub. I'll roll
I
with that.
do I do want to touch back though. Elvis Brenner's a dog. I mean, he fought Guram. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that last name. High rise, high rising prospect, friends with Hamzat Chimaev, and he pretty much fraud checked him for that entire fight. He took some mean damage, but he showed like that toughness and that grittiness. So this could honestly, this might just be a 3 round war. We don't know, but with that big grappling advantage, I still do like make the bet by sub.
I do think that this fight is going to be a lot of fun, and I could see a bonus potentially being given out to someone in this fight.
No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, this has all the makings of a war,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think it's going to be a fun one.
Let's go, boys. I'm really excited for this one now. You guys just juice it up for me even more. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, plus 250 versus Eisman Lucindo at minus 310. A lot of big favorites on this card, boys. Karolina is 9-7 in the UFC, 4-fight win streak after losing 5 in a row. However, Karolina did lose to Jan's. Ryan, pronounce this one for me.
Dude.
Jan's, she just lost to Zhang Wei Li.
Oh, Jianan.
Jianan, yes. Yan Jianan. She lost to Yan Jianan, Alexa Grasso, and Jessica Andrade. You know, that's if you're gonna lose, it's not that bad.
Those are notable opponents to lose to.
Abs-
I mean, it's not the worst losses in the world.
Absolutely. And she
They ain't
also
scrubs.
they ain't scrubs, Zach, not at all. And Karolina actually beat Rose back in 2016. 4 years ago, I mean 8 years ago before Rose's prime, but you know, still notable. Lucindo is 2-1 in the UFC. Her last win was by an arm triangle. Who do you got in this one, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it's Carolina has had a resurgence in her career, long time UFC vet, and that minus 400. She's a 22-year-old, who's barely fought in the UFC, going to be in front of a big crowd in Brazil. I don't know if I like that minus 400. I'm going Carolina with the value here at plus 310
Yeah,
or
no,
plus whatever it was. Sorry.
yeah, you're good. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think the odds makers had this one completely wrong. I would have liked to see Lucindo at maybe like a minus 150 favorite, like the young up and comer or hungry to get that victory and make her way and rise to the ranks in the UFC. But yeah, Carolina 4-fight win streak has fought the best of the best that her divisions had to offer. Um, I don't understand how the odds makers made this line. She's looked good in all 4 of her last fights, looked decent even in her losses. So, I mean, strictly for the value here, like Zach said, I'm going for Carolina. Probably maybe split decision, unanimous decision, but I take the over on this fight and I take Carolina. The money's there. That's just you got to do it.
Damn. So all three of us are taking the juicy dog here, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Karolina has landed triple-digit strikes in her last 2 fights. I like hearing that. And I think Lucindo's path to victory here is bring this fight to the ground. But I don't know. This just seems like a really close fight for the odds. So I'm in agreement with you boys. I'm gonna take the plus 250 dog and run with it. If it burns me, it burns me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. This could be a nice parlay juicer for us though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you throw this into anything, and if it hits, you're looking good. So,
Oh my God. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you also have a parlay that's, you know, you're 3 legs down and then this one comes up and you got a couple more after, you're like, oh shit, this is it. This is the
yeah,
big one.
yeah, that's where gamblers are made. Come on now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, boys. Jack Shore plus 140 versus Anderson Brito at minus 166. Shore is 6-1 in the UFC. Only loss was to Ricky Simon by an arm triangle. I believe that was 2 fights ago. Brito is 5-1 in the UFC on a 4-fight win streak. Actually beat our guy Diego Lopez in his first fight in the UFC.
Contender series, yeah.
Yeah, in the Contender Series. Now, I'm a big Jack Shore fan. Are you guys with me? Are you guys going to ride with the underdog again here?
I mean, I guess both guys here do have good resumes. I think Brito will be able to negate the BJJ of Shore, to be honest. And even though Shore got back on track in his last fights, the quality of opponents for Brito is kind of what sealed it for me. Beating Lopez, he knocked out Andre File. I'm going Brito by decision in this one. It should be a fun fight though.
And I struggle with this one a lot. Uh, Jack Shore dog, Brito dog beat Diego Lopez. Ultimately, that Lopez win definitely pushed me over the edge, taking Brito. I don't know how you have an underdog in this fight. I think this should be a pick 'em, but yeah, give me Brito by decision, but this should be a good one.
Yeah, this is one of the fights I'm most excited for on this card. And Ryan, you just proved my point for me. This should
Yeah.
be a pick 'em. Give me the plus 140 dog. I like Jack Shore's style. I don't know. I'm not super confident in it, but it should be a banger. Maybe Shore gets a finish, but I don't know. We'll see here. But this is one I'm definitely pumped for, and I'm a Jack Shore fan, so I'm gonna ride with him. Another guy I'm a fan of, just because he's got a fun style. Paul Craig plus 285 versus Kaio Baralo at minus 360. Craig does not have a great record in the UFC. He's 9-7-1. He lost by a rear naked choke to Brendan Allen in his last fight and has also lost 3 of his last 4. So not trending in the right direction for Craig. Baralo is 7-0 in the UFC, 5 of which of those wins were by decision. Does this fight go the distance, boys, or do you see a finish here?
I don't know. That's such a tough question. I mean, who the fuck knows what's gonna happen when Paul Craig is fighting, dude? I mean, let's be real. But
Couldn't agree more.
Kaio has been on a tear, and I don't see that coming to an end in front of his own crowd. I expect him to take Paul Craig down to the ground, rack up control time, rack it up completely. That's what the guy does. And whether he edges him out via decision or eventually finds an opportunity to get some sort of sub entry and subs him out that way, I'm not too sure. But I have him via decision, but
Yeah, I mean, I have Kaio winning this by KO TKO. There's something about Paul Craig's chin that's like always rubbed me the wrong way, regardless of the fact that he has like two of like the best wins like you could ever have on paper between former like Magomed Ankalaev by sub in the last like Hail Mary seconds of a fight, and then you have he just absolutely beat the shit out of Jamal Hill, broke his arm. So like it's a weird one to pick. You know, he's beaten a former champion and a guy who most likely will hold the belt at some point in his UFC career, but he is very chinny. KO lost to Johnny Walker, been KO'd several other times, and I think Kaio's just gonna be able to find that chin in front of his home crowd and just put him away.
Yeah, Ryan, I like that you brought up the Hail Mary submission from Paul Craig. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with this dude, but that's what makes him so fun to watch. But also, if you bet on him, you're like, what the hell are you doing, Paul? Like,
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just always like you're just sitting at your TV with your hands in your head, like, what the hell is this guy doing? And then he'll pull something out of the fire, and he reminds you, oh, this is Paul Craig. You know, he's been there before, but ultimately, I think he loses this and retires.
yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Zach, I like the point that you brought up about Kyle going to bring him to the ground. Craig has a 37% takedown defense. That is not good, and that is not
Mm.
ideal for this matchup. And Kyle is, in his home. So I'm going to go with Kyle as well. I don't know if I'm going to bet on it with a minus 360 line just because I kind of want to root for Paul Craig because it'd be fun to root for him and try to do some crazy shit. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think he gets it done.
I will say too, Paul Craig's defense and like the takedown defense rate, it's when you're that good of throwing up submissions off your back, you know, you worry a little bit less about getting taken down to the ground because like ultimately that is where he's most comfortable. He knows what he's doing on like on the ground way better than he does on the feet. So I don't know
Yeah,
if the game plan should be for Cal to take him down and try to edge out like a decision for ground and pound because you know Magomed Ankalaev, that Dagestani background, tried doing that, and then in the last 5 seconds of their fight in round three, Paul Craig throws his legs up, gets him in a triangle, and that's it. You know.
That is a good point, Ryan. I do see where you're coming from there. Zach,
yeah.
you want to add on to that?
No, it is a good point. I do think it's a dangerous spot to be with Paul Craig. I mean, we've seen what he's done on his back. I mean, he snapped Jamal Hill's arm from his back. Um, but Kyle always goes down to the ground. He has a very high takedown accuracy, and he's always racking up control times in his fights. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to change here. And I do think as long as he can keep your arms tight, don't allow for opportunities, he'll be able to just rack that up against Craig. And but a lot easier said than done when you're facing a guy like Paul Craig. 'Cause, again, who knows what's going to happen when that guy's fighting?
All right, boys. Michel Pereira, monster favorite at minus 655 versus Ihor Poteria, who is fighting on short notice here, plus 455. Looks like he's getting thrown into the storm with this one. Pereira is 8-2 in the UFC. He actually beat our boy Petroski by knockout in October, unfortunately. And Ihor is 3-3 in the UFC. It was supposed to be Magomed Muradov in this one, but unfortunately had to pull out of this fight. Guys, I can't imagine you guys aren't going to go Pereira in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Potierra's 3-3 in his last six, with all three of his losses coming via knockout, TKO, proven to be chinny. I think Pereira only has like one knockout in the UFC. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he has many.
No, Pereira's got
Um,
more than that. He has,
does he?
believe,
I
yeah.
don't know if he does or not.
Yeah.
Or but it's only like one in like recently. There's only been one. I could be
His
completely
last
wrong.
his last two wins since moving up to 185, he finished both
He-
of them in a combined 127 seconds.
Okay, I don't know what I'm fucking tripping about. But regardless, I do expect the dude to fly around the octagon, and I think he will find his shot, and I think he will finish him.
Yeah, this one's was a little tricky for me. I mean, I don't know if I agree with the odds too much. I mean, I get short notice. Pereira's last fight, he went down to 185 on short notice, ended up getting it done by KO, TKO, I think in round two. But like I said, he's moving down. He was like chinny, definitely, but he was also fighting at a heavier weight class where those guys can absolutely crack. So maybe that plays an advantage. But then again, Michel Pereira is moving up from welterweight to middleweight. So I think this is like his weight class. He's more comfortable. You've seen all these guys that move up from welterweight and just make big splashes. Sean Strickland, for example, former middleweight champ, started his career at welterweight in the UFC, moved up, did his thing, and Michel Pereira just puts on a show. So I have Michel Pereira winning this by a unanimous decision.
I just also just fact check myself on that one. Pereira, he has two knockouts in the UFC, the most recent one being a Petroski, and then the other one was way back in 2019 in his UFC debut. So at least
So
I
he
wasn't
must have
too
won
far off of that.
his last fight by
Submission, yeah.
submission. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pereira here. I think he's too good. Short notice. This is tough. Pereira's Brazilian. I think he actually knocks out Ihor in the first round in this fight, which I don't think I've called for a first round knockout yet, but I'm calling it in this one.
Yeah, make history.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, boys. Anthony Lionheart Smith plus 320 versus Vito Petrino at minus 410. Another big favorite. Smith is 14-11 in the UFC. Doesn't look that good on paper, but this dude was fighting for titles a few years back. He's lost 3 of his last 4, including to Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev, and his last fight, which was a knockout loss to Khalil Roundtree. Not a good look. Petrino is 5-0 in the UFC. He has won by knockout, submission, and decision, the whole trio. Does Lionheart have it in him to go on a run here and get another win? Or is this potentially the end of his career?
Yeah, I mean Anthony Smith has kind of lost his mind, man. I mean, you see what the dude's like in the octagon, just saying random shit. Who knows what's going on? You're breaking into my house, man. I don't know,
Yeah,
dude. And
you're
just
attacking my family.
yeah, you're coming after my family. And just hearing that, I'm like, I don't have confidence in this guy. Granted, though, I don't know if the line should be as big as it is, just given how Anthony Smith has fought like such high level of competition. I don't necessarily like see his route to victory where I just see I see Petrino just utilizing the takedown game again, racking up control time, and I have him winning via decision in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Anthony Smith's is up there in age. I do have Petrino winning this. My heart's torn between decision or finish. I mean, on paper, Anthony Smith has said it himself. He could beat Alex Pereira. On paper, he should be able to beat John Jones. And that's why I love that Tom brought up on paper, because Anthony Smith is notorious for being like, on paper, I can beat these guys, but doesn't ever seem to get it done. Uh, it's a tricky one for me in terms of how this fight's going to end, but ultimately, I do have Petrino winning this one.
Yeah, since when were punches thrown on paper? I don't get that thought process, but yeah, I mean Petrino is much better on the ground. He averages 3.86 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. I think he's going to take down Lionheart Smith. And although I do like Anthony Smith, this is not going to go his way. I actually think that Petrino is going to take him down a few times and wear him down with the ground and pound to the point where he just beats the shit out of him and the fight gets stopped.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, but at the same time, it's like fair warning. If there's going to be a fight that busts your parlay, it's I could see somehow by like the grace of God, Anthony Smith just getting this one done. You know what I mean? It's like
No,
one of those where
absolutely.
it's
Yeah, he's
like
gonna get it done just to fuck up your parlay, just so you can be like,
exactly,
I fucked up Ryan's parlay, you know?
pretty much, dude. That's
Hey,
the
yeah,
one where I'm
this is one
confident.
I'm staying away. I'm staying away. At minus 400, I don't think it's worth it, and I also don't believe in Smith enough to take him. But Smith is a tough bastard, man. Like he just is. So this is
Yeah,
one that I
Lionheart.
would, yeah, I would stay away from this one from a gambler's perspective, unless you want to get real cute and pick your method of victory for Petrino. Or I mean, shit, if you want to go Lionheart by knockout, I'm sure that's juicy as hell. But I don't know. I just don't see it happening. All right, boys. We're already at the co-main event. We're flying through this one. Jonathan Martinez minus 155 versus one of the legends, Jose Aldo, making his return after a nearly 2-year layoff at plus 125. Martinez is 10-3 in the UFC on a 6-fight win streak. Has a good win over Said Nurmagomedov and also beat Cub Swanson. I like Cub Swanson. Aldo is a legend. He lost his last fight to Merab by unanimous decision 2 years ago, but now look where Merab's at. The dude is an absolute stud. And he also won his previous 3 before that against Rob Font, Pedro Munoz, and Chito Vera. So Aldo's been boxing for a little bit now. He's back in the octagon. This might be his last fight. He does have 1 fight remaining on his contract, so I wouldn't be surprised if he hangs him up after this. I don't know about you guys. I just can't go against Jose Aldo. I'm going to ride with the legend here in his home country of Brazil, and I want him to go out on top, finish his contract out with the UFC with a win, and finally hang him up. Are you guys in agreement with me?
I'm excited to see Jose Aldo make his return. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm a little nervous that age and rust may play a little bit of a factor. But wait, let me circle back real quick. You brought up that fight with Merab. How damn impressive is it that Jose did not get taken down once by Merab after you see what he did to Olympic gold medalist Cejudo? That is crazy. But going back on, Aldo is vulnerable to leg kicks, and that is where Martinez thrives. I expect Martinez to utilize those. And while I think it'd be really cool to see Aldo get the win, and I really want him to get the win, I think Martinez slightly edges him out for maybe a split decision win. But I don't know if they're going to go split decision in Brazil against Aldo. Maybe the judge will stay away from that. So let me circle back. Maybe Aldo split decision.
All right. I mean, I have Aldo winning this fight. I mean, given his last 4, obviously Marab's a beast. That you can't say no to that. He's fighting for the title next. But Rob Font, Pedro Munoz, and Marlon Vera, those are all very, very good wins. And I think it just proves that he does still have it. I mean, given a 20-month layoff, sure. But we're forgetting that Jose Aldo, featherweight, arguably the featherweight GOAT, could definitely up there in the conversation. I mean, he ran that between the WEC and the UFC merger. Jose Aldo was that guy. He was unbeatable. No one had a game plan for him. Whatever you did, he countered. Very, very big anti wrestler. One of the best anti wrestlers the UFC has ever seen. Stuffed all of Marab's takedowns. That fight doesn't go to the ground. And I think we're gonna get a fairy tale ending on a career here, fellas. I think it's just gonna be like
Yes.
another Robbie Waller situation where I think Jose retires out of this fight. This is the last fight on his contract, but I think he retires. But I think he does it in the best way you could ever go out. It's just beating the shit out of a young prospect, hanging up the gloves, and calling it a career.
Let's go. Do you guys think it's going to go the distance, or do you think Jose Aldo can get a finish in this one?
I have
I
Aldo
see
by
it going the
finish.
distance. I see it going the distance.
You think submission or knockout, Ryan?
Knockout. I have
Wow.
Jose Aldo by knockout.
Woo! I'm curious. Are you going to sprinkle on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
let's go, dude. Let's go. I'm pumped for that one, dude. I'm absolutely pumped to watch Jose Aldo. I mean, just take it in, boys, because there's a good chance we never see him fight again. And it's an absolute legend. The guy before we were even into UFC and watching it, this guy was running through people. So I don't know. I'm really excited.
Yeah. I don't like the whole narrative. It's just because like a lot of these people have this image of Jose Aldo in their head where it's just him getting clipped in 13 seconds by Conor McGregor, but this guy was like one of the most dominant champions on the planet during his title reign.
Yeah.
And
And
like
that's
that
when
can't
100%.
Conor McGregor took the rocket up to superstardom was when he did that to Jose Aldo.
yeah.
All right, boys. The main event, Alexander Pantoja, minus 190 versus Steve Erceg at plus 160. Pantoja is the reigning champ, 11-3 in the UFC with 5 wins in a row. 2 title fight wins, beat Brandon Moreno by a split decision, which Moreno has not looked great since then. And he beat Brandon Royval by a unanimous decision in his previous fight. Erceg is 3-0 in the UFC, ranked 10th in the division, does not really have many notable wins, and he's only finished one of those 3 fights. But Ryan, you did mention Erceg stepped in on short notice and got the job done. Curious your thoughts here, Ryan.
Oh yeah, I think I have Urseg winning this one by could be split, could be unanimous decision, but like I think this is just one of those scenarios that almost reminds me of like a Sean Strickland Adesanya, where you have this guy that has absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I don't know why, but I've had this feeling ever since this fight was announced that Urseg is going to edge this one out. I mean, yeah, took his fight on short notice to David Dvorak, ranked number 10 in the UFC, very hard ass to do for any fighter. Proved that he belonged, got it done, beat him by unanimous decision, knocked him down, looked damn good in that fight, showed off tremendous grappling, good striking. Uh, fought the what's it, Costa on the prelims, who's fighting on the prelims this card as the opener. Beat him pretty decisively. I mean, Costa was able to steal a round. That's why I have him winning against his opponent now. But what's it called? Steve Ursig just looks like a dog. I mean, he's looked like a dog. He's proved that he belongs. And I know people might think that this is a fight that's undeserved. And I mean, you could definitely argue that. But at the same time, it's Ramadan's coming up. So Amir Albazi, Muhammad Makayev, not available to fight, especially trying to take a championship fight on short notice. They fought on the same card. He fought on the same card as Muhammad Makayev. One got their win in dominant fashion with a second round KO against Matt Schnell. Muhammad Makayev had sort of a snooze fest of a fight, and I think it's just one of those cases where you have a guy in Alexander Pantoja who's ran through the division. He's beat all the top prospects on his way up, ran through all of them, and you have this guy that's coming up, making a name for himself. He takes a fight, wins it in spectacular fashion, where you have another prospect who's coming up, wins his fight against Alex Perez in a snooze fest. So the UFC ultimately decided to go with Steve Urseg, and I'm glad they did it because I think that Steve Urseg as an underdog is a great bet.
Yeah, Ron, I can 100% see like why Urseg's getting a title shot, but like the guy has like 30,000 followers on Instagram, brother. That guy has no star power. But besides that, Urseg completely lacks the level of competition that Pantoja has faced. I mean, the guy was fighting dudes that were 0-1. The fight before he got into the UFC, and then 2 fights before that, and then 3 fights before that, just absolute nobodies. He gets into the UFC. Not one dude that he's fought has a record above 500 in the UFC as well. Look at who Pantoja has fought. Pantoja has a very well-rounded arsenal. He has a better ground game where I think he can tire out the Aussie. Urseg is also unfamiliar with those championship rounds. I see Pantoja tiring him out and getting the sub, getting Urseg out of there and saying, "Who's next? I've already beat all of you. Who's next? What do we do?"
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. There's an argument to be made there, but at the same time, it's just like, this is it. This is your moment. And I think that 125-pound Mike Tyson with a lisp is just going to get it done. You don't, I don't, there's just something like when this fight got announced, I could feel it in my core. I was like, Steve Ursay is going to shock the world. And I know I'm like probably betting from my heart here, but I don't know why. I just see this going that way.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I'm going with Pantoja here. He's won 8 times via KO, 10 via submission, 9 via decision, 10 via submission. I mean, he's more battle tested. Urseg hasn't grappled with anyone on Pantoja's level. But Ryan, God damn it, you're scaring me because you're not going with what we've seen, what's on paper. You're going with the heart of the man, which you cannot measure with wins and losses and just the storyline. And we have seen that happen like several times. Like Juliana Pena beats Amanda Nunes as a massive dog when Amanda ran through the division and it was like, all right, who's next? And just Juliana Pena in that instance, it was her night and she hit stardom. Like we've seen it
yeah,
happen several times. And
What's the betting line on this again, Colin?
Pantoja's minus 190, Urseg plus 160.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
not even a huge favorite either, which
He's
kinda,
not. I was
that's
Yeah,
surprised.
because Steve Urseg's nasty. He's nasty. I watched this
just
guy
think
fight. He's
you
gross.
think they would have set it at a bigger favorite in general, which kind of makes me think like trap line a little bit. Maybe Urseg does pull it off, but I still think Pantoja finishes him via submission. But that line does scare me with the Pantoja pick as well.
You know what? For the UFC 300 pod, I was like, yeah, I think Gaethje gets it done. And then I'm sitting next to Ryan watching the fight. We're right before the fight, and he's like, "Trust me, dude, Max Holloway. Put your money on Max." I'm like, "All right, dude. I trust you, Ryan. I trust you." I went with Ryan and went with Max, and God damn it paid off. Ryan, it might be a game time decision, but I might switch my pick and go with Ursay because you're that confident in it. I don't know. You're being very persuasive.
I will say this: that pick is subject to change depending on how if Costa loses in the first fight and gets like smoked because he fought Steve Urseg and took him to a decision. If Costa gets smoked, I might be riding Pantoja for the rest of the card.
So we're all sitting here like, all right, well, we might both flip flop, but we got to see what happens earlier on. That's a good point, Ryan. You know, if he gets smoked in the first fight, I might be like, all right, dude, Urseg really hasn't fought anyone.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it'll be a game time decision, but right now, lock me in for Steve Urseg.
God damn it. I love it, man. You know, even though there's not a ton of star power in this card, I mean, what's better than UFC Saturdays? Really, really nothing. I love it, man. You get it once a month, you know, you got to take it in. And I don't know, this will be a fun card. I know Zach is in Hoboken with me, the Hoboken studio. We're watching the fights in Hoboken this weekend. Should be a good time. Ryan, what do you got planned for the fights?
You know, I'm probably just gonna be sitting on my couch. We'll see what happens.
Oh, well, if you want to send Hoboken, let me know.
Yeah, come out to Hoboken, watch with us.
All right, perfect. Were you in
Let's
Hoboken
go.
now, Zach?
Yeah, I just got here a few hours ago.
You forget to pay your electric bill or something? My boy's sitting in the fucking dark.
He's in Drock's studio and he doesn't understand how to work the light because there's a button on the floor and I didn't want to tell him like mid pod, but there's a button on the floor to turn the light on.
All right, who's the idiot who designed a room with a button on the floor for the light? Come on.
No.
No.
Let me explain the story to all the folks here that see Zach in the dark. So Drock and I moved in here and we're like, you know, we moved in all day. We're sweating balls. We're like, God damn, where's the light in my room? My room's pitch black. And Dave's like, where's my light? And we're like, wait, there's no lights in our rooms? So for a good 2 days, neither of us had a light in our room. I ordered that one off Amazon that it's in Dave's room because then, you know, Lance got me a light from home. And yeah, so the light's plugged in to the outlet, Zach, and on the floor there's a button to turn it on.
Well, that would have been good to know about 20 minutes ago.
Oh.
There you go.
Fellas.
Hey, we can see him now.
That's ridiculous.
There we go. Just in time for us to end the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Around the Octagon episode 2. We'll be back on Monday to recap UFC 301.
It's been a pleasure, guys. I hope you enjoy.